Hi folk, Michael here with some tips about owning your first exotic car. I hope this video provides value by benefiting you whether you already own an exotic or are considering purchasing it. Now, if you're specifically looking for an Aston Martin V8 Vantage, then I just might have the video for you that goes into much more detail about that particular car. The link is in the description. Without further ado, here are the tips.
So the first tip, guys, is if you're having your car sitting around for quite a while, you want to make sure that you don't get too many flat spots on your tires. And this was something that used to really affect old cars and they're left around for too long. What I have done here, as opposed to buying tire cushions, I have gone for these dense rubber mats that you can get from Home Depot. Now I've overstocked them, so I have about 3 per wheel. So that's about a set, 6 times 2 is 12. And you can get a set of around about 6 or about 20 bucks from Home Depot. And it's a really good hack because that's 40 bucks basically for all 12 versus about 500 if you're talking about like really proper tire cushions. Now tire cushions of course are important if you have lift or something like that. And also if you kind of want more luxury, you don't want to be worrying about slippage when you're coming in and coming out of the garage. That's something that's also tricky to park on these ones. Sometimes the actual mats slip and you got to maybe reverse out and bring it in again a few times. So that's the one thing. It is a hack though, because for 40 bucks saves rather than going towards 500 bucks for the tire cushions. Now another thing you can do, and some people do, is they obviously the whole floor, they'll basically do the entire floor like this, and that way it's just much easier. You wouldn't have to be slipping when you're coming in. So another thing people do is they sometimes inflate their tires with maybe nitrogen, about 50 pounds, 55 pounds, depending on the vehicle. So that's the first little trick, for important, especially if you're leaving a car around for quite a while. Now, another thing, of course, related to that is if you have the car being around for a while, you want to make sure that you are using something like this tender. So this thing here, this is a Vector, but you can also get the Battery Plus model. They're all pretty good. Main thing is, you want to have it on, so just disconnect it for a second. So on this particular Aston Martin, what you'll notice is, right, when everything is off, there's no light on. So always disconnect the negative first. But the first thing I'm going to do here, and I can just do this while holding the camera correctly. Okay, so the first thing you want to put the positive on, and here's where it is. You'll see this cap here. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to get it off the first time, so make sure you do this when it's not too dark. And the next thing is, you want to put the negative. Now, where does the negative go? Well, one of the best parts that I found with the negative on is this little part here, okay? And when it's on correctly, what you'll notice is that the light should come on here. And it will be flashing while it's sort of charging, and then it will be solid when it's pretty much fully charged. Okay, so that's just an important thing to do when you're leaving your Aston or your other exotic. When it's not a daily driver, it's not going to get driven that much, obviously, so you really do want to watch it. Now, another thing is, where is the other parts where you can have your float charger, etc., or your tender? So here's where it is in the boot, or the trunk, as you say in the US. You have this, and it's actually quite a spacious boot, or a spacious trunk. And there's this little part over here in the corner, if my camera will behave. So this basically comes out, and you can charge in here, you can connect. And this is actually the place that Aston also suggests. We've also got a little outage there. The actual battery. Now, the problem with the battery in these cars, of course, one of the positives is that basically it keeps the center of gravity low. And they made the engine bay for aesthetics. But where they actually have the battery is right in here. It's actually just in there in the back seat. You have to lift up the seat and go underneath. It's really central. The problem with that is you have to take apart everything, upholstery and everything, and then there's, it slides. There's one little part you take off that connects, and then there's a strap. Then underneath that there's like a sliding part. So it is an ordeal, at least an hour or more to take out. So the batteries you can get for about 300 bucks. I was able to get about an hour labor for about 189 or something like that. One thing to notice if the battery is starting to go is actually these doors here, your window. When you basically open, like the Tesla, you push this in, right, and then you pull out here, you'll notice that the actual window should slide down a little bit just to let you do that. And if it doesn't, you've got an issue with your battery. So see that? It just went open like that. I haven't even opened the door, I just pressed it in. The handle comes out, and I open up, and you have your swan doors. Okay, it's not quite your gullwing doors, but these are called your swan doors here. So hopefully those two little tips were helpful. Your cushions, tire cushions, or gym mats is the hack that I've done here, right, which is pretty decent, although the cushions are a little better. Okay, and the second thing is having a float charger right there. Now it's pretty comfy as we get inside. You get your manual, of course. You have your little tray here with Aston Martin handbook that can come out if it behaves. There we go. And okay, and it's a pretty nice dash. So we're going to start it up now pretty soon. So you've got to be careful, obviously, where you drive. You don't want to go to a dangerous area, park in a dangerous area, just like you wouldn't go out with a lot of cash, right? So you've got to watch that. Also, sometimes it's good to do a recce with, let's say, your daily driver or friend, etc. Like, where are you going to go? Or even if you don't have a second car, Google Maps can be your friend. Like, just take it to a place to see what the roads look like. You know, you don't obviously want to go somewhere where there's just ramp after ramp after ramp. It's not going to be that enjoyable for you. Of course, you can get a lift. Just watch that lower lip, that front lower lip. So one of the good things I did when I got the car was I went to get it PPF'd, and it turned out that the front bumper was PPF'd already along with the hood or bonnet, as we say in Europe. And I would always suggest getting that. In addition, I would also look into the windscreen protection. So I got it windscreen protected as well when I got this car, so that's important. Insurance, shop around. There is a huge return from shopping around. That should basically save you some money. Now, it's just not the same as it was in the past. You know, the depreciation schedule is very good. After a few years, it starts to flatline. It doesn't really go down as much as regular cars. There's also just the fact that fewer and fewer manufacturers are now owning the smaller brands. So there's a lot more people buying, there's a lot more parts. Parts are just not as expensive as they once were. The cars are a bit more reliable than they once were. It's just a phenomenal experience all around. Owning an exotic car, driving an exotic car is an absolute phenomenal experience. Make sure you take it for spins every now and then. Obviously, it doesn't want to be a garage queen. It doesn't want to sit around forever in a garage. It's good to take it out from time to time. But do remember that as you drive more miles and condition will determine, like, largely can determine the value of the car. So miles and condition, just remember that, miles and condition. Keep that in mind if you're on the market for one of these exotic cars.
So folk, if you found this video valuable, please share it. It really would mean so much to me, and it does help the YouTube algorithm so that others can get this content for free.